A very good morning to all these students. I hope you all are absolutely safe and fine out there. Before we proceed further, let me begin with a little introduction. I am Nikita ma'am, and today I'll be taking care of your writing skill section, how you can enhance your writing skills. And I'm sure of one thing, that by the end of this lecture, all of you will have all those tips and tricks that you'll need to know when it comes to writing skills. Okay, so keep a book and a pen ready in front of you all, because there will be notes that you all will have to note down. No screenshots, but notes that all of you all will have to note down. Come on, keep a book and a pen ready. Now, at any given point of time, any one of you feels that you all have not understood anything, or you all need an explanation to something again, feel free to put in a message in the chat box. We'll now proceed further with our very first concept, and that is story writing. I'm sure as kids, one thing that we all loved was listening to stories. The way our grandparents, would make us listen to stories, they would literally, we would just get so engrossed in the stories. So come on, tell me, how many of you all loved listening to these stories from grandparents, and what was the kind of story you all loved listening to? I want all the answers in the chat box. Okay, so some liked listening to horror. Okay, then fantasy, perfect. Okay, then there were horror again. Very good. Okay, listening to adventurous stories. Again, it was adventure. Yes, so, and you know what was the best part of our grandparents telling us a story? It was like, their experiences. And let's suppose like my grandparents, they were born before the partition period. So like when I would sit with them for stories, I would get to know everything that happened during the partition or before the partition. So it was kind of a very interesting thing to listen to. So your grandparents exactly know how to tell you a story, and to make you engross in those stories. I believe this is exactly the quality that we all are looking for in you when we ask you to write a story. Okay, when we ask you to write a story, this is exactly the qualities that we want you to develop. A quality where we want you to enhance your writing skills to such an extent that you have literally engrossed all the readers of your story, of the all your readers who are reading your story at that point of time, like completely engrossed in it. There's nothing else in this world for them but your story. And trust me, this can happen. You can literally engross people in your story by writing an effective story. Just with the help of a few tips and tricks, you'll be able to write wonderful stories from now on. Let's proceed further. Okay. Now, let's proceed further. So, what is the purpose of writing a story or an experience? First and foremost, we want to develop your storytelling skills. Okay. The next thing is we want to check the creativity and imagination level of a student. How imaginative the student can be and how creative the child can be when it comes to writing stories. So your creativity level, your imaginative level. So this is all we check when we, make you write a story. And finally, a story is written so that you as an individual can grab the attention of the listener. Just the way when your nana or nani or when your dada or dadi, they would tell you stories. So you would be literally, engrossed in this story. So this is exactly what we want you to do, that when you write a story, it's like the listener is completely engrossed. It is how creative and how lively you can make a story. This is, what we're going to understand today is exactly how to make a story lively. स्टोरी हम सब लिखते हैं, वी ऑल आर गुड स्टोरी टेलर्स ऑल्सो. कहानियां बनाने में हमसे बेटर कोई हो ही नहीं सकता. And you all can relate to that. Every day you all make a lot of stories. अपने आप को बचाने के लिए, गड़बड़ी करके बचने के लिए, you all tell a lot of stories. Agreed. But when it comes to writing stories, we don't just want you to write a story. We want you to write a great story. Okay? Come on. Now proceeding further, what is story writing? Let us understand what exactly we mean by story writing. It's an art which can be perfected only with practice. If there are so many writers out there, okay, who end up writing books, novels, and so many things. They're never able to write a dialogue also in one go. They have so many cancellations and so many errors, and after various attempts they are able to write just one dialogue. Imagine they have to write an entire book. Similar is in your case. If you come and tell me that if tomorrow is your paper and today you're sitting and you're going to just read one story, and tomorrow for that and that's enough for your practice for a paper, I will never agree to it. If tomorrow is your paper and today you're just reading one story and like, okay, mujhe sab aata hai, no, that's not correct. It's an art which needs to be perfected, and that can only happen with practice. The more you practice, the better you get at it. So, a story writing is a work of fiction or imagination. And what you have to do is you have to write it in a very simple language. A lot of students who feel ki if we write high end vocabulary, if we end, big words, so we'll get more marks. That's not the truth. What's the point of writing big words, but your paper corrector himself or herself, they're not able to understand your content? At that point of time, no one will have the kind of time to sit with a dictionary to check your paper. That's not going to happen. So don't confuse the readers and the listeners with words that they might not understand. It's not that a good or a great story needs to have very high end vocabulary. You guys are not Shashi Tharoor. So, no. You'll need to write a story in very simple language, grammar that is understandable to the readers, and there should be a natural flow of speech. Like when you're just writing a story, I as a reader, when I'm reading it, it should be like a movie going on in my mind, like just a movie where you're just going in a particular flow. And that is why I'll tell you, don't drag your story to a great extent. आप जितना ज़्यादा उसको बड़ा करके लिखोगे, you will lose the essence of the story. Don't drag it for the sake of it. Keep it short, but yes, keep it effective. Now, let's understand what are the 5 key elements that we have in a story. Number 1 is character. Every story needs to have a character. Some of you end up adding a lot of characters which should be avoided. Okay, characters should be less, minimum 2, maximum 3, not more than 3, not less than 2. That should be a character count. Then setting, exactly when I'm reading a story, I should know exactly where the entire story is taking place. Okay, is it in the mountains or is it in the hills? Is it on a beach? Where is it? You'll have to tell me where exactly the entire scenario is taking place. Plot. Are you talking about a murder mystery? Are you talking about a horror story? Are you out there telling people a motivational story, action story, sci-fi stories? When I say sci-fi, it relates to UFOs and aliens. Are you trying to tell them about that? Okay, what is it? What is the plot of your story? What is exactly the thing that is based on your story? What is the story entirely based on? Okay, one more question for all of y'all. Tell me, when you all see a movie, let's say if the movie is, everything is, going really fine in the movie, everything is very happy, happy. Will you like literally like watching that movie once again? Tell me, it will become boring. Obviously, no. We will never like watching a movie, or for that matter even a serial that has no conflict in it at all. In fact, if you all can relate this to Big Boss, if some of you who would watch Big Boss at some point, you all would realize why is the show such a hit. It is because it has a lot of conflict in it, lot of arguments that makes it very interesting for others to watch. It has always been a human mentality, दो लोग लड़ रहे हो देखने में बड़ा मजा आता है. This is what happens. So all these conflicts are actually there to make your content very realistic and very like interesting. So this is exactly we need in your story. Like if everything was going fine, then what's the point? But if there are certain difficulties that you as a story writer could include in your story is going to become a better story. So don't just write a story where everything good is happening. I try adding something, like a conflict to it, like a dash of conflict to it to make your story more interesting. And again, theme and plot are one and the same. It relates to the, your content. What is it based on? What is the plot of your content? Okay. Now, when we talk about characters, characters can be any person. It can be a living person. It can be a dead person. It can be a ghost. It can be a table. It can be a chair. It can be a dog. It can be any animal. It can be any non-living thing. You remember when, as kids, we would write an autobiography of a table or autobiography of a pen? So at that point of time, our characters, our main characters, were a pen or a table. So of course, we can also have such non-living things as your characters and give each one of them a name. Would you like to be nameless? Suppose if a friend of yours wrote a story and he just included you in it, but he did not mention your name. Will you like it? Come on, all of you all tell me. Will you all like the fact that you've been included in a story, but you've not been given a name? No one is going to like it. You all want to be mentioned in the story. Okay, the name has to be mentioned. And that is why always remember that whenever you talk about any character, it should have a name. Okay, it should have a proper name to it. Now, let us understand the various kind of questions, how a story can be asked in your paper. Number one is a question can be asked where the beginning of the story is given or the end of the story is given. Now, always remember if the beginning or the end is given, you will have to exactly begin or end the story in those words only. You cannot change even one article in the sentence. It should be that perfect. You should begin and you should end your story with those particular words only. And finally, we have another kind of a story where the title will be mentioned. Like, for example, write a story on the title, The Gift. That's it. They're not going to tell you anything further. Now it's upon you how you want to go ahead with the story and how you want to begin, how you want to, end the story. Nothing will be given to you, just the title will be given. Another kind of a question that is asked sometimes in the examination is outline story. Now, what's an outline story? A farmer, dash, four sons, dash, very lazy, dash, a farmer asked, dash, pot of gold, dash. So, this is what do you mean by this? It's an outline story where we are giving you few words, and now we want you to compile those words and make it a good story. That's called an outline story. Okay. So these are the various types of questions that can be asked in the examination. We'll now move on to the tips that you all need to follow for writing a good story. Now, this is going to be the most important part because here we'll be discussing the various tips. Now, point number one. Now, whenever we are starting to write a story, we just can't immediately write. Okay, why is that? You are always given 5 minutes or 10 minutes of reading time for your language paper also. The reason is that once you read all the question and you decide, okay, I want to write a story. So you need to first plan your story. Okay, you all need to plan your story. You should exactly know how your story is going to begin. You should know how your story is going to end. You should know how the sequence in your story is going to unfold. You should know each and everything. It should never be like, you are lost when you're writing a story. That should never happen. Okay. And always remember, if you start your story well and if you end it well, trust me, you have written a good story. Now, when it comes to how do you plan your entire story, let me tell you all that. Now, let's say for an instance, like I've got this question paper in front of me. I've read a question. It's about story writing. First and foremost, I have two options now. Either I can just close my eyes and just start thinking of what can be written, or the second thing is pick up a pencil and on my answer paper only in rough, okay, I'm just writing it on the side, the plot of my story, like character introduction, then the problem, sorry, then a background of the character, then the problem, and then the solution. This is how you can write. Okay, so I will always suggest you all, right? You all can just frame a plot or a plan, a story planner, and this is how you can start writing a story. So when you have the story planner in front of you, so now you exactly know how you're going to write your story. Okay, you guys exactly know how your story is going to begin, how the story is going to proceed further. So you'll never get confused. So the plot helps you to write a smooth story. Or else, if you're good at imagination, you can just close your eyes, imagine your story, and start writing. But I'll not suggest you all that. You all can always go in for writing a planner. Always ensure that the planner is written with a pencil. After your story is done, you can just erase it. Okay, the second one is now, whenever the outline story is given to you, you will have to follow the order of the points given as it is. Okay, you'll have to follow the points, order of the points given as it is. You cannot change the sequence of the point. Okay, the sequence of the point will never be changed. It is always the order has to be followed. Now, after that, the next thing that we need to do is you have to connect the points in a rational manner. Okay, you have to connect the points in a rational manner in such a way that the pointers, when you connect them, they end up making a lot of sense. Like you're just not just connecting pointers for the sake of it. Okay, you're connecting them and they actually make sense in your story. And after that, the only way, as I told you now, you all need to make a story very lively. If you really want to make a story lively, add dialogues to it wherever possible. Trust me, the more dialogues you all add, okay, the more the dialogues you'll add, the more it will make your story interesting. Add dialogues to it. Okay, like you can literally make your story lively by putting in a conversation, by adding dialogues. And then give names to your characters. As I told you, every character needs to have a name. If you as a person would never want to be a part of someone's story without a name, then definitely you also cannot give in a character without a name. Even if it's an animal, even if it's a table, you can just give it a name so that your content looks very realistic and interesting. Okay, be it a living thing or a non-living thing. Okay, your characters, if it's your lead character, if it's your main character, then yes, it should have a name. You can keep the name short and interesting, you can do that. And you know what's the best part of keeping names in your story? It's always that that name also can become the title of your story. Well, as far as title is concerned, we'll talk about it. These 5 pointers, are you all clear with these pointers? Are all of you are clear with these 5 pointers? Any doubts whatsoever you all have not understood? Okay. Now, take out your notebook. Give the heading as story writing. Okay. Give the heading as story writing. Write down today's date. That is 28/12/2020, and start writing these 5 pointers in your books. All of you all. Once you are done writing, you can just put in a done in the chat box. Okay. All of you are done writing. Okay. Finish it off. I'll wait. Okay. All of you are done now writing. Okay. In the participants, there's a student named as Galaxy A20s. I would request you to let me know your actual name in the chat box so I can rename you here. Kindly let me know your actual name, Galaxy A20s, so that I can rename you here. Otherwise, unfortunately, I will have to remove you. Perfect. Thank you so much. Done. Okay. All of you are done writing your content. Okay, perfect. We'll now proceed further with the concept. So the next particular tip for writing a good story is that when you are writing a story, let it not be very long. Okay, as I told you all, do not just drag it for the sake of it. Just adhere to the word limit if prescribed. Adhere means stick to the word limit that has been given. Okay, they will always, they'll be mentioned like write a story in 300, 350, 380 words. So stick to that. Okay, but at the same time, ensure one thing. At the same time, just ensure one thing, that when you're writing your story, okay, at least you should follow the page limit. Now, let's say when you're writing a story, the length that we as paper correctors expect from you is one full page, okay, one full page and half page of the next side, at least half a page of the next side. So your story should technically be of 1.5 page. Okay, so requesting you all to follow that limit, 1.5 page at least, because let's understand you will be writing a story for 20 marks. And when we have to give you 20 marks, we need to see the content also. So 1.5 page should be there, but don't go beyond that. Okay, don't go beyond 1.5 page. After that, whenever you write a story, now let's imagine all of you love watching web series. Tell me, do you like watching web series or do you like watching any, movie? Do you love it? Do you like investing your time in books and web series? Movies are nice, of course they are. So, do you like investing your time in web series and books? Yes. So, tell me one thing, like if there's a web series that you're watching, okay, and like it has got various seasons and you've binge watched like majority of the seasons, and now it's like a next new season is about to come but it's not yet released, and it's just you're left in the middle of not exactly knowing what's going to happen next. You are dying to know the conclusion of the content, you're just dying to know it. Okay, but you it's like it's not yet released also, and you'll have to wait for a long point of time, and by the time the series is released you're already like done with it, you're bored with it. It's like अभी इतने time नहीं देखा ना, अभी नहीं देखना है. A lot of time this happens. Okay, so this is what happens is when you've not been given the conclusion of a content or a web series, you kind of feel very restless about it, especially if it's a good one. Okay, guys, just give me a minute. I'll just be back in a minute. 1 minute. Okay, now let's proceed further. So, as I was telling you all, that you cannot overlook on the importance of conclusion. Okay, always end your content. Okay, end your story with a proper conclusion. We cannot leave the paper character or the reader of a story just hanged in the middle, We need to tell them what happened in the end, whether it was a happy ending or whether it was a sad ending. Okay. And after that, you always have to give it a suitable title to your story. As I was telling y'all can name your story after the main character or any particular proverb or any particular quote. You can just name it. Okay. Always give a suitable title to your story. After that, always write the story in past tense. We never appreciate content that is written in present tense. We always want the content to be written in the past tense. Always remember the fact that whenever you're writing a content, be it a story writing also, it always has to be written in past tense. Okay, it always has to be written in past tense. And as I told you all, use short sentences, or if to write your story, like if you've planned to write a long story, sorry, a long sentence, then just might as well do one thing: break the sentence into two halves. Don't write one very long sentence, because what you're trying to say through the sentence, the meaning of the sentence or the meaning of the content might just be lost. So don't do that. When you're writing long sentences, rather than writing long sentences, break the sentence into two halves and then write the sentence. Okay. And always remember one thing: do not use slang. We do not write the way we speak. At times you'll just get into the flow of content and you'll end up writing in the way that you always speak. कभी नहीं करना है. No slang. Anyways, how's you bro, what's up? All these are slang and you have to avoid them at any given cost. Okay. No slang to be written at all. Are the next 6 pointers clear to all? Are all of you all clear with the remaining pointers? Just explain to you all. Anyway is not a slang, but anyways is. Anyways. 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 We say anyways छोड़ना यार, क्या करना है. Anyways. So that acts as a slang. Okay. Come on. All of you all write down the remaining 6 pointers. And after this, we'll move on to our next content. Once you are done writing, put a done in the chat box. Okay, in the meantime that you all are writing, I have a question to ask all of you all. And the question is, if if you are writing a story, what according to you would be the best way to practice a story? Don't give me instant answers. Think about it and answer. If you were asked to, give tips on story writing, what according to you would have been the best way to practice story? I repeat my question. What according to you would be the best way to practice story? Think of your answer and then tell me. Okay. 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 Perfect. I've got two answers that make a lot of sense. Very good, Kavya and Parth. Sure. Now, guys, do one thing. All of you are going to rejoin the session. And after coming back, you're going to tell me how can we end up writing a good story. Come on, all of you are rejoin. and then share your content with me.